Now, today is a pretty significant day after what we've been through over the past couple of years, if long overdue. From today, mandatory COVID isolation is a thing of the past right across the nation. It started in Victoria 2 days ago, now it's national. No more restrictions, compulsory notification or isolation. Life beyond COVID, life returning to normal. Now, we should have been there a long time ago, but as you know, the paranoid and the fearmongers have tended to dominate our national debate. And one of those who has beaten the drum loudest across the pandemic has been the ABC health reporter Norman Swan. And he's just been elected a Fellow of the Australian Academy of Health and Medical Sciences. Congratulations to Norman Swan. But they cite Swan as an important voice of reason during the pandemic. Now, that depends on your perspective and the extent to which you want to separate fearful projections from reality. Early on in the pandemic, Swan had us headed for a public health disaster akin to northern Italy.
So the predictions at the moment, if this hockey stick doesn't change that much, is that we'll be out of ICU beds in New South Wales. Victoria will be behind that by April 10th. And in that case, ICU physicians will be faced with some very difficult decisions.
Thankfully, he was wrong. Later, he was demanding the New South Wales government lock down all of Sydney and put in a ring of steel, or it wouldn't be able to control the Northern Beaches outbreak.
So the precautionary principle would be locking down Greater Sydney and really holding that for about 2 weeks. We've been relying in New South Wales on the absolute fantastic work of the contact tracers. It is truly amazing. They're working incredibly hard. It's to the great credit of everybody, including New South Wales, that they've got that system going, but it won't take long for that to be overwhelmed.
Once again, thankfully, Norman Swan was wrong. He cheered lockdowns and restrictions, and he sometimes cheered mask mandates, and he was often wrong, and he was always on the side of overreaction. He was firmly in the Daniel Andrews school of pandemic paranoia. So Swan certainly was an important voice during the pandemic. But I think if you want to point to voices of reason during the pandemic, you have to talk about people like Dr Nick Coatesworth and Professor Peter Collignon. By comparison, Swan was a shock jock. Listen to him just last week, railing against the end of COVID isolation, that mandatory isolation that's come into play today.
Mandatory isolation is one of the last COVID measures that we've got to hold the line against a new surge that might be coming along. And just in case you think it's not exceptional, let's just remind coronacasters that 13,000 people or more have died this year from COVID-19.
Yes, some people don't ever want the onerous rules and the sense of crisis to end.